Well, it's happened, dear.
What's wrong?
We've had our first hate comments.
Really? And was that for the last episode?
It was one of the clips about me talking about being an only child.
Oh, really?
We had three hate comments.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I hope you're not really upset.
Oh, I don't give a shit. I think it was quite funny. One of them was one of them was quite funny, and they said we should put restrictions on who's allowed to buy podcast equipment. So maybe they had a point. Maybe we should give up. Should we stop and maybe just
No,
say
we're not giving up.
No.
We're
Okay.
not. You've got to accept that some people won't like what we say.
They don't appreciate our art.
No, they don't appreciate our art, our wit, our
Banter.
banter. Exactly.
a
They
good
don't
word.
appreciate it.
No.
That's the trouble. And what did the other people say?
Oh, there was just some other rubbish. I can't remember, and it's not worth remembering, but we will fight through it.
We will fight through it. We really will.
But yeah, posted really well. They actually helped boost it, so it was quite good in the end.
Good.
Is it? Any news is good news. Is that what they?
Any news is good
Any
news.
press is good press.
Any press is good press.
Exactly.
That's right. Any
So,
press is good press.
Throw us your hate, throw us your happiness, throw us your questions. We'll take it on the chin.
Especially your questions, because they do help us to
Come up with
about
episodes.
exactly what we might do next. What we might
Yes.
do next. You know.
But you wanted to start with a little story to kind of kick us off a little bit before we get into the
Well,
episode.
yes and no. Yes. The other week I saw dear old Ian McKellen in a play.
Yeah, I saw him not so long. Well, we both saw him not so long before that as well,
Yeah,
didn't
I mean,
we?
that man never stops working.
He doesn't.
He's 84 years old.
And a man older than you as well. They're hard to come by these days.
I will treat that remark with the contempt which it deserves. Another hate comment, ladies and gentlemen.
From within the podcast.
From
Oh
within the
dear,
podcast.
it's falling apart.
Listeners, I think this is going to be the most acid session you'll ever hear.
Maybe it'll just have to become the Z show.
It will. The Z show.
Get rid of me,
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. I'm sure it'd be far more entertaining.
How dare you?
No, it really does interest me that Sir Ian McKellen, who's a wonderful actor, is still working on the stage, age 84.
Incredible, really, isn't it?
Because on the stage, you need a lot of energy, and obviously you need to keep your mind, you've got to be able to remember all the lines. Filming, you can take rests.
Yep.
It's a different ball game. And it's wonderful that he's back on the stage, because that's where he really started. I remember being at a talk he gave, or rather an interview, with Michael Billington in the mid-90s, and he was just going into filming. This is before X-Men, before Lord of the Rings, and he was very scared about going into filming properly.
It's completely different, isn't it, compared to theatre?
It's a different ball game, and in fact, he's adapted to it very well, as you well know. He's made so many wonderful films since then. Just to see that man on the stage in this play, Frank and Percy, which you saw and I saw, which is a 2-hour play with one other actor.
It was fantastic and hilarious too. Like I really enjoyed it.
And the vocal energy and the physical energy. And then straight after that, he's gone into rehearsals for Player Kings, which is an adaptation of Shakespeare's Henry IV plays, in which he plays Falstaff, comical role. And in the second half of the play, again, he's hardly off the stage, and it's a very physical role. And it just amazes me that he has the energy to do that at the age of 84, And he's got plenty of money to retire.
Yeah, I'm sure he's rolling in it, I'd say.
Yeah, but I guess the lure of being on stage, the audience has kept him going,
Now, you've not told the story I thought you were going to tell, Neil. Ian McKellen owes you a pint. He owes you a pint.
He owes me half a pint.
Okay, half a pint. But still, he owes you a drink. Now tell the story.
Many years ago, in fact, I'll tell you the exact date. It was 1977.
What day? What? Come on.
I don't know the day. And the exact year, sorry. You really are on it today.
I am.
You are absolutely. Gosh, dear me. Acid drops or what? Picking me up on every comment. It was 1977.
Yes.
It was the year of the Queen's Silver Jubilee, 25 years on the throne. And I was with a couple of friends in New Cross in London, South London, at a pub called the Rose of Kent, which happened to be the local. And we went in there, and there was a performance going to happen. And it was a very small theatre group who were doing a comedy show, sketches. And it was about Miss New Cross 1952. which was the year that the Queen came on the throne, and what happened to Miss New Cross in the years in between.
Right.
So it's very satirical and very political, and it was also very entertaining. So I remember it. And in the corner of this pub, with a notepad and pen, was Sir Ian McKellen. Or he's only Ian McKellen then.
Yeah, I was
much
going to say,
younger,
yeah.
making notes. And I that's Ian McKellen. No, it isn't. That's it. It's Ian McKellen. It can't be. It is. All that business. And anyway, it turned out that he was working for the Arts Council of Great Britain and deciding on whether this group of actors deserved a grant from them or not, you see. He was doing all sorts of jobs then. He wasn't Gandalf then. So I went up to him.
Thought you'd have a little flirt, did you?
I did, yes, yes, I did. No, actually, I wanted to compliment him.
Yeah, of course you did.
You are on it today. You were prostrate with exhaustion about 10 minutes ago.
Gosh!
I've had such a busy day, I can't cope.
That cup of tea's
at the
woken me
age of
up.
23.
Oh.
Anyway, there he was, and I went up and said, Mr. McKellen, blah blah blah, and you're one of my heroes when I was growing up. He was, when I was a young man, and he was starting out. I wanted to be an actor, and he was a young actor, and and all that. He was a very genuine man, I think, very genuine. And we got talking. I said, "Can I just buy you a drink?" And he said, "I'll just have half a bitter, side half a bitter." Probably having gin and tonics these days, and bottles of champagne. And so I did. He said, "When I next see you, let me buy you one." Well, I haven't seen him since,
Oh.
so he still owes me half a bitter.
Ian
There we
McKellen,
are.
if you're out there, if you're listening, you need to buy our Neil here a drink.
But he was a very charming man, and my gosh, how wonderful. All these years later, he's still on stage, still up there,
Do you know what? You should write to Graham Norton and try and get on the big red chair with that story. I reckon you'd have a chance.
Do you know, I think I probably would.
Yeah.
The trouble is I'd end up being ejected.
Well,
Well, it's better than being rejected, folks.
At least you might see he might buy you a drink. You never know.
He
You
might
should
just
do it.
that.
You should do it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Let's crack on with today's episode.
I
then,
think
eh?
we ought to, really.
Welcome to Hello Dear, the podcast where age is just a number and opinions come with a touch of laughter. I'm Ciaran, the young perspective on the twists and turns of life today.
And I'm Neil, the seasoned voice of yesterday, with a flair for drama and a love for life. Together, we're here to chat about everything under the sun, from the latest trends to the timeless tales of our own experience. So grab your favourite beverage, get comfy, and join us as we explore the complexities of life.
What are we going to talk about today then, Neil? What's on today's agenda?
Well, as we were talking about dear old Sir Ian, maybe about age, how we see ourselves. Age is more than a number. You said it's a number in the wonderful introduction.
Yes.
But it's actually how we view ourselves at our age.
Do you know what? I don't think I've quite reached that age yet, where I fully kind of look at my age as a measure of, I don't see I feel like 23 is not quite like an age to kind of go, doesn't summarize life, if you get what I mean. I'm still, figuring life out almost.
So you don't see yourself as 23?
I don't look at my age. You know what? Anytime someone asks me how old I am and it's near my birthday, I always tell them the age I was before, because I don't even clock I'm getting older.
Now you know, listeners. Now you know.
But yeah,
He's actually 55.
How dare you? I do not look 55.
No, you don't.
No, I look about 12 still, I think.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think age is a funny thing, because everyone always says it, like, as you get older, you wish you were... I'm at that age where everyone who's older than me go, oh, I wish I was 23 again. I can't really measure it. Like, the gap between 18 and 23 isn't, massive, or 18, 21, 23. There's not been a huge change in my life, really.
Well, they do say people don't settle till they're about 25.
Yeah, I feel like that's the first adult milestone, where you're not just kind of having a piss up for the sake of it.
And they also say that when people get to 35, they're more or less settled in their opinions and in their outlook on life. I'm not sure about that because people can suddenly
I was
change.
going to say
and
surely that changes throughout life depending on
I think it does.
what
Yeah,
happens to you in your
I think
life.
it does. Yeah. Not everybody gets into a pattern straight away.
No. But then how do you see, what do you see with your age then? How do you reflect on your age? That's probably the question.
I think part of it is I didn't think about it much. I mean, I had a 50th birthday party and celebrations and a 60th.
Mm.
And they were both at the school. I did a cabaret and all of that. And lots of lovely friends and relatives with me. And I didn't really... Well, I think when I was 50, I went through a bit of a...
Your midlife crisis,
Yeah,
like you
and
said
we talked
last
about that last
week,
time,
yeah.
didn't we? 60, well, I was still working. It wasn't like I was retiring. But 70, yes, I have definitely felt I am 70. I keep saying to myself, I'm 70. I'm 70. And it didn't hit me really till after Christmas. You know, I had lots of little celebrations when I was 70 in October, and people also took me out for nice meals and things, and people still are. I was
I
out.
took you for lunch, didn't I?
You did. You took me for lunch.
I
It was
did.
very kind. I don't remember where it was, but it's very kind. You know.
Yeah, that cafe you like, I think, in Kingston.
Oh, that's right. That's
yeah.
right. Yes, very nice. But it was that, and in fact, I was out for my 70th birthday on Friday at Grave 8 Manor for a lovely gourmet meal, a Michelin star restaurant. Some friends took me. It was lovely. It was like being in Downton Abbey, you know, but without the salary. And no, yeah, I have felt, oh my gosh, I am 70 now. But that shouldn't define you completely. Because if something defines you completely, it defines what you do,
Yeah.
how you behave, how you move forward in your life.
I think this is pushing towards where we wanted to get with today's episode, and measuring success and measuring life and progress. And it was funny because you were asking me, like in the kitchen before we sat down to record, about, success, and I was saying when I was off sick and stuff, it started to hit me that I'm not really as far forward as I'd like to be in life. But then I said to you, but I don't really know how to measure that, because I can't really compare it to anything else. Like, I only left uni coming up to 2 years. Whereas, if I was 30 and reflecting on what I did when I was 20, you've got 10 years of experience to compare it to.
That's right.
Like, even looking back, I would say I was more successful while I was at university doing more successful things within photography. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm less successful now. I'm now in a full-time career in what I went to university for, Whereas at university I was still studying. So technically I'm more successful now, even though I don't feel it. It's like, how do you quantify success at a young age? Is like, because I think age is used as such a pillar stone to success, Like, there's a whole, like, oh, I've made it to, 70, I've made it to 80. That's success in itself, making it to that age. And then, you've retired. That's a successful thing, or it's viewed as, well done, you've, like, worked hard your whole life and now you've retired. I think age is a really good measure of success, but when you're younger, it's a lot harder to kind of quantify that.
Well, from your point of view, obviously 16 was a milestone because you did your GCSEs, then you're going into sixth form. 18's a milestone because you're doing your A-levels and you're going off to uni. They're milestones.
They're milestones, but they don't really matter because everyone does it.
Yeah.
Like, I can compare what results I got.
Yeah.
And I did worse at A-level, so, less successful then. But
And then you get to 23 and it's all out there ahead of you. Your life,
exactly. You've left.
You know.
Yeah.
As far as you know. And then it begins to you're swimming a little rather than, And then the other side of that is, you were saying earlier that you didn't feel that you were doing much that was worthwhile. You did more worthwhile at university. But then you were enjoying the projects that you were doing. They were more creative.
At university.
Now, and you could do that again. You could
exactly.
do that again. You could go back to that.
Yeah.
You can always go back to things. You can always pick things up again, I've learned. You've got all this space in front of you. And as you say, when you're 30, you might look back a little bit and see, how have I succeeded? What have I done?
Yeah.
But I think we need to be very, very careful here, because success doesn't necessarily just mean achievement.
Okay.
What have I done? What have I achieved? Success, achievement is slightly different, I think. Well, hello dears, Neil here, just checking in. How are you doing? If you are enjoying today's episode, why not drop us a quick review on your favourite podcast platform? And don't forget to hit the follow button so you never miss an episode. We love hearing and interacting with you. We are into interaction. Follow us then on social media at Hello Dear Pod for bonus content and send us a message. Finally, if you're one of our listeners on Spotify, you can interact with our Q&As and polls, which you'll find on most episodes. All our links are in the description of this episode. Now, let's get back to it. Success can be a broader thing than achieving.
What? So define achievement and success.
You can be successful as a father, successful as a friend, successful as a partner, in that you are able to relate to people and able to love them and help them. And that is also a success, other than job, career, winning an award, whatever.
Okay, whereas achievements are those milestones.
Achievements are very different. You
Yeah.
know, I think having a child and bringing a child up is a major achievement.
Yeah, and I suppose
itself.
the definitions of... So if I become a successful photographer,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean that I will have won lots of achievements. I may not win any awards.
Yes.
But you could still be successful because that's up to
Yes.
you how you want to quantify success. Is that what you're saying? Almost.
In your own sphere. You can
Yeah.
be successful, but there are other kinds of success.
Yeah.
Other kinds of that are not to do with jobs, not to do with your career.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
You can be successful at life.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And very often, some people are hugely successful, but they're hopeless at relationships. Somehow it doesn't work out for them.
But how do you measure success outside of career? Like, how do you quantify whether you've been successful when you're not, so it's easy at work because, I got a promotion, and you'll get a promotion every 3 or 4 years. Great, I'm successful at this job now because I'm progressing. And it's easy at school. And I think we're so used to this environment, especially I feel now, that I was so used to, like you said, GCSE is great. I've achieved them now. Next thing, A-levels, great, achieved that. Right, now I'm going to university. Great, I've got my degree. And now I'm sort of like, right, but now how do I figure out where I am being successful? And even like, how do you ever reflect on that and go like, no, I am being successful and I can say I'm being successful because this and this.
I think you can be over reflective and over analytical about these kind of things.
That does
That's
feel a bit
getting
like
out
where
of it.
I'm going.
That's getting
Yeah.
out of it, really. And also, I would agree with you. Go through the hoops of exams, and very often, I mentioned this in a talk I gave in Oxford to students there. You get the second year blues, which is when people wonder, why am I at this university? Why am I at university? Because they've been gone through all the hoops. Then suddenly they get to the second year of their university course, think, oops, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
It
Kinda
tends to be the
catches up with
second
you.
year.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? And they have to kind of reassess themselves a bit and then move on to the end. That's one thing. You can be successful in your own sphere. I was. You asked me in the kitchen, do I still think I'm successful now I've retired? I can look back on having been successful.
Yeah.
I mean, only the other week I walked into a theatre, a children's theatre in Budapest, and I'm an honorary member of that theatre, and I'm a friend of everybody there. I'm well, well respected.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realise till I went back, actually. And that's a small sphere. Now, I haven't won an Oscar for a screenplay. I haven't got a play on in the West End or become a TV writer, as I mentioned last week. But I've succeeded that way. And you can kind of, I would say the worst thing you can do in trying to assess your own successes is to look at other people. If you're trying to gauge yourself with other people, oh, but he's doing this and he's doing that.
But then you say,
and I'm doing nothing,
within your sphere.
Yeah.
But you have to compare to other people in your sphere, otherwise you're not going to know if you've been successful.
Yeah. But I think I would be saying, oh, if only I was a very successful writer, if only I won an Oscar. It's silly, really.
When you're 80, how will you say, I've had a successful retirement?
Number one, I learnt to relax. Number 2, I've looked after the people around me as far as I can. Number 3, I get this collection of short stories published, or I publish it on the internet.
So it's good to have goals then.
Yeah, good to have goals. I think the important thing is, it's a bit difficult for me. You're in the same boat as me. You're in the same boat as me. I had a lot of projects. Every
Yeah.
year was a new project. And suddenly there are no projects and you're creating them for yourself. It might even be putting the rubbish out.
Yeah.
You know, it's a project, you know?
Yeah.
What's my next project? I haven't got a project, you know? And I've tried about 6 different things.
It was fun. Will was saying this to me the other day. I came up with yet another business idea, and he was saying, "You're always coming up with these ideas, and we hear about them, and you do really well at them for 3 or 4 weeks, and then next thing it's the next idea."
Yeah.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily,
No,
because I
not
think
at
you
all.
learn from
No,
all of
no.
that, and that I guess that's
No.
success is you kind of go right. Well,
No.
you know that never worked out. I didn't push that any
Yeah.
further, but I've learned from that.
And the alternative to that, I mean, from my point of view, is you don't bother. Oh, I'm 70 now. What's the point?
Yeah, and then you sort of just
You
become
just don't
lazy
bother,
and
or you become very disgruntled, you know.
Mm.
I mean, a lot of the people I work with at Swanwick Writers Summer School every year in August in Derbyshire are of a similar age to me or slightly younger, and they're writing. Now, they may never be published. They might get published in a magazine, a little short story or whatever. They're writing all kinds of different things. Or they might self-publish on the internet, or find someone who'll publish for them, and they pay for the print
Yeah.
run and all that. But they're doing it. They're enjoying it for what it is,
and therefore they're successful.
and therefore they're successful at what they do. Whereas for me, I can't possibly write anything unless it wins the Booker Prize.
See, I think this is the cycle I've got in, is that until I've won the Taylor Wessing Portrait Prize, I'm not a successful portrait photographer. And then what do I do is I get into that spiral and I go look at portrait photographers who have won it and they've been nominated 3 times and they've won it twice, and go, well, I'm never going to get to that, or how are they so good? How did you, and then you kind of end up in a big defeatist, unsuccessful kind of feeling really rubbish about yourself, which is where I was when I was off sick, which also didn't help.
Oh,
And then you kind of measure, and then you go back to like, well, how do I measure my success? And you kind of disregard everything you've done because you're kind of looking so high. So maybe you're right that success you shouldn't quantify success with achievement. It can back up some successes, but success is a kind of like a measure of self-reflection in a way.
Yes, I mean, and what is achievement? As I said, it's wider than that. Success is wider than that. I mean, obviously, it's amazing that if you get your book published, if you get something on the stage, or if you get into a major exhibition, you win a prize. Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. But you can get then you get the appetite for that, and you want to do more and more and more. You've just sort of just been grateful for what you've received, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the important thing as an actor? We've just had the Oscars.
Yeah.
Yeah. The important thing of an actor is to do a good job, not to win an Oscar.
No.
To do your best job, not to win an Oscar. If it happens to win an Oscar, fine. How wonderful. Or a BAFTA or whatever. And there are people there in some of the films weren't even mentioned or didn't win anything. Maestro.
Well, it's actually funny because
anything.
Leo DiCaprio didn't win an Oscar for years and years and years and years, but he was still a very successful actor.
Absolutely.
He just didn't have the achievement behind it.
Yeah.
That's
And he has
such a good
achieved
point.
by
And-
being a very successful
Yeah.
actor.
And now he's
you know.
won, but still, I think that's such a good point that he kept going. Just because he wasn't nominated or didn't win anything doesn't mean he wasn't any good.
No.
He just wasn't recognised in that category for that achievement, for that, very competitive prize, essentially.
It's almost childish to behave like that.
Yeah.
To behave like, oh, I haven't won an Oscar, therefore my career's gone.
But we all fall into that trap.
We do. we
Oh,
do.
I haven't won, I've not been nominated for a award in photography,
Yeah.
therefore I'm an unsuccessful photographer. I will never be,
Yeah. You must never think that, really.
It's funny because as we were speaking earlier about the podcast, do you think we have a successful podcast?
Yes. Because we're two very different people and we bounce off each other really well.
Mm.
And I hope that what we're talking about is reasonably
Interesting.
entertaining and interesting for other people.
Yeah.
I think it's the success is in doing it, you know.
We were saying this, that it gives us an excuse to see each other, and it's actually been really nice that, every week or every 2 weeks,
Yes.
we're getting to see each other. Whereas before it'd be a coffee every 3 or 4 months, you know? And it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that sort of sums it up. Not to be selfish and use this as a way of kind of summing up a bit, but I think that kind of says it all. That we always say we're really enjoying this podcast. It's doing really well. Like we've not got thousands of listeners. We've not.
Well,
won
we will
anything.
have by next week.
We've got haters now.
They're not really haters.
I know, but you look
They
at
just didn't find it interesting.
yeah, and there aren't any achievements for the podcast hugely, but we've had over 100 plays. That's an achievement, but it's successful because we're enjoying it, I suppose.
I mean, look at all these people are writing newspaper articles. They're successful journalists. Not everybody reads their column.
No.
They may be reporting in the most awful places like in Palestine or Ukraine, risking their lives, but not everybody is going to read that article. A lot of people will, and I have enormous respect for those people who risk their lives as journalists. But not everybody's going to read.
No.
Does that make them stop?
Do you know what's really funny is if you look at the artists that we would call successful now, when they were alive, they were nobodies. Like the painters and, they were absolute nobodies.
Very often, yeah.
And you kind of look back and go, well, they are super successful. And maybe it's a thing that you may never know and you may never be able to measure your success.
No.
So maybe the most important thing is, are you happy? You're succeeding if you're happy and you're pushing forward and you're achieving what you want to.
Are you at peace? Because happiness comes and goes as well. There is this syndrome that we've all got into. It's all about having to be doing. What are you doing now?
What's the next thing you're going to?
What's the next thing you're going to? What are you doing now? What are you doing now? Even retire. What are you doing in your retirement? And you're like, well, I've seen my friends. I got the theatre regularly.
Yeah, you almost feel like you have to make excuses, don't you? Rather than just
almost,
being like,
I've started a podcast. Oh, really? You have to be achieving in that sense, doing something that's worthwhile. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I admire these actors who say, I've retired. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and sit and just
spend my money and
and not necessarily write a novel, because that's the latest syndrome is actors have to write novels.
Everyone's got a book now.
Everybody's got a book now. Absolutely.
We'll have a book. You'll have a book.
I will. Exactly. It's going to be called Circle of Scorn. My podcast with Ciaran.
How dare you?
No, I don't. Yeah.
Well, I think we've covered everything we wanted to speak about, but you had a really nice quote that we said would be really lovely to end on.
This is it's a kind of poem, really. It's called Success, and it's by a 19th century American writer and philosopher called Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I think it kind of sums up my viewpoint today, but maybe not yours. I don't know.
I think it kind of covers it. I think it's sort of. Well, should we just listen to it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Success. What is success? To laugh often and much. To win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children. To earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends. To appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded.
You've been listening to Hello Dear, presented by Ciaran and Neil. Follow us wherever you listen to podcasts for a new episode every single Wednesday. In the meantime, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok under @HelloDearPod, and you'll find bonus content and behind-the-scenes stuff there. Want to get involved further? And for Spotify listeners, you can interact with our Q&As on each episode. And for all other platforms, including Spotify, just click the link in the description of this podcast to send us a written or voice recorded message. See you next week.